Hey, I've got a new project that I wanted to show you guys. Um, Let me open the door here. All right. Wow, what a beautiful day. All right, so you see this? That's my deck. So I saved all of the deck wood. I took down my deck and I put it under that tarp. I took down my deck for multiple reasons. I decided to do it recently because it was becoming a safety hazard. But I decided I didn't want a new deck because with these low decks, there's the problem of creating an inaccessible area, and critters like to take up residence in that inaccessible area. So, and also it's hard to do some work if you have to do some maintenance work. Like if I had to do some maintenance work on that fence, the deck was right up against it. So it's better not to have a deck. So I decided to do this. These are free floating stepping stones. And they come in 3 different sizes. There's a 12-inch stone, there's an 18-inch stone, they're all square, and a 24-inch stone. So those big ones are 24-inch stones, and the medium-sized ones are the 18-inch. The ones right there, I'm just using as spacers, basically. And the idea behind this project is, let me show you. Here's the plan, man. Here's the plan. All right. So I plan to have 3 raised garden beds. And they were going to be, let's see. Yeah, that is, let's see, what is that? Yeah, that's 3 feet. So each one is 3 feet by 12 feet. I actually decided to not do this one here because it's right by the fence, as you can see, and I get a lot of shade there, and I have the extra, it turns out that I just happen to have the exact number of extra 18-inch stones to fill that space. So it kind of saves me the work of building a 3rd raised garden bed because I'm getting kind of tired. This has been a lot of work, and I'm only halfway done. So I want to wrap it up. So I'm just gonna fill in that space with the extra stones for now, and then I'll build the raised garden beds in the sunniest portion of the yard, right there and right there. So that's the plan. That's what I'm doing. You may be curious about this device right here. This is called a scalar energy device. How do I explain this? If you go to Ken Rollo's Fresh and Alive website, he has a lecture on the physics of consciousness. And it turns out that consciousness has to do with scalar energy. And that's also the basis behind pyramid power, which is a real, actual phenomenon. You can actually gain special abilities with pyramids. And it improves your health, and it also will detoxify water, and it actually brings extinct species of plants back into existence, which is pretty cool. So pyramid power is a real thing. It basically turns out that all of those friendly but wacky New Ager types in the 70s were right with their pyramids and crystals. They were right all along. So, and I just recently learned that. So scalar energy actually travels multiple times the speed of light. And before somebody says, well, that's against Einstein's relativity, well, it turns out that Einstein was wrong about that. There is no speed of light speed limit. There's a Chinese mathematician, young guy, called Ren Zhao, who's published a really nice paper disproving Einstein. So, and he also makes the point that just about all of Einstein's so-called discoveries were taken from other people. So Einstein was basically a plagiarist, and what better place to steal other people's work than to work in a patent office? So E equals mc squared, that comes from a French mathematician called Poincaré. He's the guy who first came up with that. And the photoelectric effect was essentially stolen from Max Planck. And the relativity equations were stolen from Lorentz. So basically, Einstein had us going all this time through the strategy of the emperor's new clothes. I'm so enlightened, and my theories are so enlightened that you have to be really smart to understand them. And if you don't understand them, well, that's obviously an indication that you're just not smart enough. So what did people do? They didn't admit that they didn't understand them. Anyway, so scalar energy moves multiple times the speed of light, and when it slows down, it turns into matter. And this is how the one infinite creator literally redraws the universe continually. I've always wondered how miracles were possible, like Jesus turning water into wine, and Buddhists levitating and performing so-called apports, where they could pull objects out of thin air. These so-called miracles seem to defy the laws of physics, but if they really do occur, then it's really our laws of physics that are incomplete and or incorrect. So, and that's what I'm betting on. I think our physics is both incorrect and incomplete. And the more I learn, the more I'm convinced of that. So the way it works is the one infinite creator is essentially a love field. He, she, it is a love field of the universe. I mean, the more I learn, the more it looks like Star Wars is actually a documentary, because there's so much stuff in Star Wars that I'm actually finding evidence for in real life. So this is one of those things where they talk about the Force. Well, that's the one infinite creator, and the one infinite creator really does bind not just life, but all matter in the universe together continually. So think about how a monitor can make an object just disappear suddenly. Well, it does that because it's always refreshing the screen. It's redrawing the screen at a very fast frequency, like 60 times a second. And it happens so fast that you don't notice that the screen is being redrawn. It appears to be continuous because our eyes and our visual processing system is not fast enough to keep up with it. So if you want to make an object appear on a computer monitor, you simply draw the object where you want it the next time you refresh the screen. It's that simple. And if you want to do an apport in our three-dimensional hologram that we call reality, then you tap into the consciousness, and through the interaction with the love field, you redirect the redrawing of the universe to include that object in your hand. That's what it amounts to. And that has to do with scalar energy. So scalar energy is always present. There's a scalar energy field, it's a torsion field. And it goes from the center of the universe to the center of each galaxy, and then from there to the center of each star in that galaxy, and then to each planet in that solar system, and then to each moon. And then on the actual surface, it goes to each living being. We all have our own scalar energy fields that are fed ultimately by the one infinite creator. And this is also, well, might get into that next time. This is becoming long-winded. So this is a tower garden, as you can see. And I haven't put plants in there yet, but it's a hydroponic system for growing vegetables without the need for soil. And when you take a look inside here, you'll see a water pump. There's my water pump. And that water pump will pump water through the central tube, and then it comes up here, it hits this barrier, and then it distributes the water to the root systems of the plants as it drips down. So I'm gonna get some veggies going pretty soon. My goal is to grow all of my own food. And I'm getting there. I'm getting there quickly. Right now I've been able to grow 30%, or 33% of my own food. I basically eat one meal as a homegrown food because of this. These are my sprouters. You can see they're at various stages. The sprouts are at various stages. So I've got broccoli in here and here, and I've got a mixture of sprouts on the other side. And then I've got some alfalfa, and I've also got clover. So I can, with these sprouts, I can eat one meal of sprouts per day. So that's less poison. Let me set this down for a minute. So that is less poison. That's 1/3 less poison per day that I'm consuming. And my goal is to completely remove all of the poisons that we generally routinely eat in our diet from store-bought food. So that's broccoli. And this is the mixed veggies that I was talking about. It's got broccoli, alfalfa, but it's also got lentil, mung bean, and radish. So that's that. So they have these holes, and it drips down, and then it drips into that reservoir. And there was a design flaw. I had to basically make the air holes a little bigger. And then I accidentally cut new holes with the knife in trying to do that. So then I had to seal those holes, and I used a clear silicone sealant for that. But now, no more leaks, and they work perfectly, and I eat one meal a day with no poisons. And I actually do some extra stuff. So I use what's called Ormus. And Ormus, actually, it comes from an acronym. It's really ORMES, not US, but they changed it to U because it sounds better that way. But that's an acronym for orbitally rearranged monatomic elements. And these actually help your DNA to become better transceivers. Our DNA is much different than what we've been taught in school. It's not just a biochemical database of proteins, a database for proteins, I should say. It's much, much more than that. It has a spiritual and scalar capability. And it turns out that the love field, the one infinite creator, is continually generating DNA from scratch all the time. The universe is designed to continuously generate life. So as soon as we move out into the universe, we're going to find that there's life everywhere. And that's really exciting. So I can't wait to actually do some of that in the future. So let's see, what else can I show you? This was my system. I would create these NutriBullets of organic, using organic veggie smoothies. But I've kind of moved away from that to eating raw sprouts now. I filter my water. That's very important because they poison our water with fluoride. And I also try to get my water, I collect my own water, and I get it from the mountains. Because the higher up you can get your water, the less chemical runoff is going to be in it. So they use glyphosate and atrazine and all sorts of bad chemicals that get into the water supply. And all of that runs downhill. So if you can get your water in the mountains, it's going to have much, much less of all of the chemicals that are routinely used in agriculture and are actually poisonous to us. Glyphosate is very carcinogenic, for example. And atrazine is like, it's like a pseudoestrogen. They're deliberately putting all of these pseudoestrogens in the environment to basically feminize men and actually create gender confusion, because they're all about creating division and they're trying to do population control. That's their main objective. And in order to do that, they want to try to keep people from having kids, and they want to basically kill as many people as they can get away with, which is what this the jab and the C was all about. They wanted to scare people into taking their jab. So I hope nobody took the jab. My mom did, unfortunately. But anyway, and then I've got that. I haven't even opened that, taken it out of the box. But it's essentially the same idea as that. I'm going to put that right here. So, it's another hydroponic growing system for smaller plants like herbs. All right, so this is what's been keeping me busy and sane through these crazy times of ours. And then when I'm done, I'll have these nice garden beds and I'll start growing veggies outside during the summers. I've had a little problem with erosion. So there's a stream of water that forms on this side, and it's been taking the sand. So I use leveling sand. That's why it looks so smooth. But the water erodes that leveling sand, and pretty soon these guys here, these rocks might start sliding that way. So I've been trying to figure out how to prevent that. And there are these edging, sort of plastic edging tools that I got, and you can't see them from this angle, but they put plastic right up against the stones, so the water doesn't really, it doesn't touch the sand as much, the stream of water. There's still an erosion problem, but at least it's not carrying the leveling sand away with it as much as it did. So I still have to figure that out. As you can see at my my gutter, I've aimed that out across the stones instead of along that corridor to try to distribute the water better. But yeah, it's coming along. I do maybe 2 to 4 stones a day. That's my goal, and then pretty soon I'll have raised garden beds. All right, I'll give you an update sometime in the future.